The morning sun rose over New Eden like it did every day. Golden light spread across the wheat fields that stretched from horizon to horizon. The air smelled of fresh soil and growing things. Birds that humans had brought from Earth sang in the trees near the farmhouses. Sarah Chen stood on her porch and watched her daughter Maya run through the tall grass. The girl was 7 years old with black hair that flew behind her like a flag. She was chasing butterflies, laughing as they escaped her small hands. Be careful near the irrigation channels, Sarah called out. I know, Mama, Maya shouted back without stopping. Sarah smiled and sipped her coffee. New Eden was everything the colony planners had promised: rich soil, clean water, gentle seasons. After 3 generations of humans living in cramped space stations and domed cities on harsh worlds, this place felt like paradise. The colony had existed for 12 years now. 12,000 people lived here, spread across farming communities that dotted the continent. Most of them were women and children. The men worked in the orbital mining platforms above the planet, rotating down for 2 weeks every month. It was hard being apart, but the mining contracts paid well. In another few years, they would have enough saved to bring more families from Earth. Sarah's husband David was up there now. She could see the mining station sometimes. At night, a bright dot moving across the stars. She would wave at it, knowing he could not see her, but doing it anyway. The agreement with the Korvathi Dominion had made all this possible. The Korvathi were a proud species, tall and scaled, with forearms and eyes that glowed faintly orange. They controlled this region of space. When humans asked to establish a farming colony, the Korvathi had agreed in exchange for a share of the harvest. It was a fair deal. Everyone benefited. Sarah finished her coffee and went inside to prepare breakfast. The community school started in an hour, and Maya needed to eat before the transport arrived 300 km away in the colony's capital town of Hopeville. Governor Linda Park was reviewing the weekly reports. Crop yields were up. New water treatment plant was working perfectly. 3 babies had been born this week, bringing the colony's population to exactly 12,047. She smiled at that number. Growth, progress, future. Her assistant knocked on the door. Governor, there's something strange on the long-range sensors. Strange how ships, a lot of them coming in fast from the outer system. Governor Park frowned. Scheduled traffic? No, ma'am, and they're not responding to our hails. The governor stood and walked to the window. The sky was clear and blue, peaceful, but somewhere beyond that blue something was coming. Get me a connection to the Korvathi trade office and alert the mining platforms. Assistant nodded and hurried away. Governor Park watched the sky and felt the first cold touch of fear in her chest. She told herself it was nothing, probably just a Korvathi patrol that forgot to file their flight plan. These things happened, but her hands were shaking. The ships that dropped out of faster than light travel above New Eden were not Korvathi military. They belonged to a warlord named Drefkar, powerful clan leader who had grown rich from conquest and slavery. He commanded a private fleet of 40 warships crewed by soldiers loyal only to him. Drefkar stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the planet below. Such a small world, such weak defenders. The human mining platforms had already been destroyed, vaporized before they could send a warning. The debris was still falling into the atmosphere, leaving bright Streaks across the sky, Warlord his second-in-command said, the planet has no military installations, no defense. Grid only farming settlements, I know. Drethkar replied, his voice was deep and cold, that is why I chose it. The Dominion will not approve of this action, the humans have a treaty. Drethkar turned his glowing eyes toward his subordinate, the Dominion is weak. They trade with these creatures instead of conquering them. They treat humans as equals when humans are clearly inferior. He gestured at the planet, look at them. They send their warriors away to dig rocks from space, they leave their females and young ones unprotected. What kind of species does this? A trusting one, the subordinate said quietly. A stupid one, Drethkar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. When I take this world, the humans will learn their place, and the Dominion will see that my way is the correct way, strength, dominance, fear. What are your orders, Drethkar? Consider the question. He had thought about this moment for months. The humans believed themselves safe. They believed the galaxy was civilized. They needed to learn otherwise. Kill them all, he said. Start with the females and the young. Make sure the males in orbit can watch. I want them to see what happens to species that forget they are prey. The subordinate hesitated. Even among the Korvathi, this was extreme, but he had served Drethkar for 20 years. He knew what happened to those who questioned. Orders. As you command, Warlord. The dropships fell from the sky like metal rain. And hopeful, Governor Park was trying to reach anyone who could help. The communication arrays were jammed. The mining platforms were not responding. Emergency channels were full of static. Then the first explosions hit. She ran outside and saw the dropships landing in the town square. Korvathi soldiers poured out, weapons raised. People were screaming, running, falling. A young mother carrying a baby tried to flee past the governor. A plasma bolt struck her in the back. She fell, still clutching her child, still trying to protect it. Even as she died, Governor Park stood frozen. This could not be happening. They had a treaty. They had done nothing wrong. Korvathi soldier saw her and raised his weapon. She closed her eyes and thought of her grandchildren in the school across town. The bolt never came. Instead, she heard a voice. That one is the leader. Take her alive. The warlord wants to make an example. Rough hands grabbed her arms. She was dragged toward the largest dropship where a towering Korvathi in ornate armor was watching the slaughter with obvious pleasure. Drethkar looked down at the human female, so small, so fragile he could crush her skull with one hand. You are the governor, he said. It was not a question. Why are you doing this? She asked. Her voice was steady despite her terror. We have a treaty. We have done nothing to you. You exist. Drethkar replied. That is enough. He turned to his soldiers. Broadcast this across all frequencies. I want everyone to see. They activated a recording drone that hovered in the air, its lens focused on the governor and the burning town behind her. Drethkar grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Humans of New Eden, he announced, your colony now belongs to me. Your treaty means nothing. Your Dominion allies will not save you. You are prey and I am the predator. He squeezed. The governor gasped and struggled. Tell your people on Earth what you have seen today. Tell them that Drethkar of the Ironclaw took what he wanted and no one stopped him. Tell them that their females and young ones died screaming while their males watched helplessly from orbit. He released her and she fell to the ground. Coughing and clutching her throat, "Let her live," he ordered. "Let her carry the message." The massacre continued for 6 hours. Sarah Chen heard the explosions from her farm and gathered Maya in her arms. She ran toward the emergency shelter behind the barn, the one they had built because colony regulations required it but never expected to use. The shelter was underground, hidden beneath a false floor in the storage building. Sarah pulled Maya inside and sealed the door. They huddled in the darkness, listening to the sounds of destruction above. Maya was crying. "Mama, what's happening? Bad people came." Sarah whispered, "But we're safe here. We're going to be okay." She was lying. She knew she was lying, but what else could she tell a 7-year-old? The sounds continued. Explosions, screams, weapon fire, then silence, then footsteps above them. That Sarah covered Mia's mouth and held her breath. The footsteps moved across the floor, stopped, moved again. Someone Clear's throat was searching. A Corvathy voice spoke. "Nothing here. Just farming equipment." Another voice replied, "The warlord wants every building checked. No survivors. We've killed thousands already. How many more can there be?" "Those are the orders." The footsteps moved away. Sarah did not move. She did not breathe. She held Maya so tightly that the girl would have bruises later. Hours passed. Finally, Sarah opened the shelter door a crack and looked outside. The storage building was intact. The farmhouse was burning. The fields were scorched. Bodies lay in the yard. Her neighbors, her friends. She closed the door and waited. 2 days later, a transport ship from the southern continent found them. The ship was overloaded with survivors, mostly children. 47 people in a vessel designed for 20. The pilot was a woman named Rebecca Torres. She had burned scars on her face and one arm in a sling. "We're heading for the emergency beacon," she said. "There's a gap in their patrol pattern. We might make it." "What about everyone else?" Sarah asked. Rebecca's expression answered the question. "They launched at night, flying low to avoid detection." The Corvathy ships were still in orbit, but they seemed satisfied with their work. Perhaps they thought no one was left alive to escape. The transport broke through the atmosphere and raced toward deep space. Behind them, New Eden burned. Sarah sat with Maya in the crowded passenger compartment. The girl had stopped crying. She had stopped speaking entirely. The galaxy waited for humanity to react. Every species with faster than light communication watched their news feeds and diplomatic channels. Every government with ties to Earth held emergency meetings. Every military commander reviewed their defense plans. They expected rage. They expected demands. They expected threats and ultimatums and all the noisy things that angry species did when they were hurt. Instead, they got silence on the Corvathy home world. High Counselor V. Thaner sat in his chambers and read the reports with growing unease. 3 days had passed since Drefgar's attack on New Eden. 3 days of complete silence from Earth. No diplomatic protests, no demands for justice, no military movements, nothing. Perhaps they are in shock, his advisor suggested. They lost 12,000 citizens in a single day. Such trauma takes time to process. Perhaps, V. Than replied, but he did not believe it. He had studied humans for decades. He knew their history better than most. Corvathy, he knew about their world wars, their genocides, their capacity for both great kindness and terrible violence. He knew that humans were not the gentle farmers they pretended to be. Contact our intelligence assets in human space, he ordered. I want to know what they are doing. The advisor bowed and left. Vithan walked to his window and looked at the city below. Millions of Korvathi lived and worked. They are going about their daily lives, unaware that one of their warlords had perhaps just doomed them all. Drethar had acted without authorization. The Dominion had not ordered the attack on New Eden, but that would not matter to humans. Drethgar was Korvathi. He wore their symbols and flew their flags. In human eyes, his crimes were the Dominion's crimes. Vithaner activated his communication device. Get me a connection to the human embassy. Priority 1. Sir, the human embassy has been closed for 2 days. All staff have departed. What? They left no explanation. They simply locked the doors and evacuated. Vithaner felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of diplomacy, he had never seen humans simply leave without a word. They always had something to say. They always wanted to talk, unless talking was no longer the point. Across the galaxy, other species noticed the same thing. Human merchants had abandoned their shops and trading posts. Human workers had resigned from their positions. Without notice, human tourists had cut their vacations short and boarded ships for home. It happened quietly, without announcement, without explanation. One day humans were everywhere, and the next they were gone. The Valkyrie ambassador to the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. This behavior is unprecedented, she said to the assembled representatives. Humans have completely withdrawn from galactic society. They are not responding to any communication. They are grieving. Mordic representative suggested, give them time. This is not grief. The Velry replied, this is preparation. For what? She looked around the chamber at the faces of 100 different species. I do not know, but I fear we will find out soon. On Earth, Admiral Helena Cross stood in a command center that did not officially exist. It was buried deep beneath a mountain, hidden from every scanner and satellite that might look for it. The facility was older than the current government, built in secret during the early days of human expansion into space. Around her, officers worked at holographic displays showing ship positions, fleet movements, and strategic assessments. The room hummed with quiet activity. Status report, she commanded. A young commander stepped forward. All dormant assets have been activated, Admiral. The Black Fleet is assembling at the following coordinates. He touched a control, and a star map appeared in the air. Red dots marked positions throughout human space. In hidden bases inside asteroid fields. In the atmospheres of gas giants. In hollowed out moons and abandoned stations. 4,000 to 100 ships currently operational. Another 800 can be brought online within 2 weeks. Crew status full complement. The veterans responded immediately when called. Many brought their children who have come of age since the last activation. Helena nodded. The Black Fleet was humanity's secret, passed down through generations. Every family that served knew the importance of silence. They trained in secret, maintained their ships in hidden facilities, and waited for the day they would be needed. For 200 years that day had never come. Humanity had chosen peace. They had hidden their strength and shown the galaxy only a fraction of Their true capability, now the waiting, was over. Intelligence report, Helena said. Another officer approached. Our assets in Corvi space have provided complete tactical data. We have the locations of all of Drefgar's military installations, patrol schedules, defense grid frequencies, and fleet positions. We also have identified every officer who participated in the New Eden massacre. How did they participate? We have recordings from their own helmet cameras. Admiral, the Corvefi like to document their victories. We know exactly who killed whom. Helena's expression did not change, but her hands tightened into fists. And the Dominion government, they are distancing themselves from Drefgar. They are calling it an unauthorized action. They have offered, the officer checked his notes, they have offered 2 million credits in compensation and a formal expression of regret. 2 million credits for 12,000 lives. Yes, Admiral. Silence filled the command center. Everyone there had seen the footage from New Eden. Everyone had watched children running and falling. Everyone had heard the screams. Helena took a deep breath. Here is what we are going to do. We will not make threats. We will not issue ultimatums. We will not give speeches or make demands. We will simply act. She touched a control in the star map, zoomed in on Corvi space. Drefgar has military installations in 12 systems. We will strike all of them simultaneously. The attacks will happen within the same hour, regardless of the light years between targets. That level of coordination has never been achieved by any species, an officer noted. Then we will be the first. Helena marked several more locations on the map. These are civilian population centers in Drefgar's territory. They will not be touched. Our targets are military only. Anyone who surrenders will be taken prisoner. Anyone who fights will be eliminated. And Drefgar himself, he will be captured alive. He will stand trial on Earth for crimes against humanity. The galaxy will see that we do not simply kill our enemies. We hold them accountable. The officers exchanged glances. Some had expected a more brutal response. Some had wanted one. Helena saw their faces and understood. I know what you are feeling. I feel it too, but we are not going to become the monsters who attacked our people. We are going to show the galaxy the difference between us and them. We will be precise. We will be just, and we will be absolutely devastating to those who earned our wrath. She looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. Any questions? There were none. Then begin the operation. We move in 48 hours on Drefgar's fortress moon. The warlord was celebrating his victory. His throne room was filled with his most loyal warriors, drinking and boasting about their kills. Trophies from New Eden decorated the walls, including the flag that had flown over the governor's mansion. Drefgar sat on his throne and watched his men with satisfaction. The attack had gone perfectly. 12,000 humans dead and not a single Corvathi casualty. It was a glorious victory. Warlord, his communications officer, approached nervously. There are some anomalies in the sensor data. What kind of anomalies? Human ships, my lord, or rather the absence of them. There are no human vessels in any of the usual shipping lanes. Trade has completely stopped. Drefgar waved a dismissive hand. They are afraid. They are hiding. This is what prey does when predators are near. Perhaps, my lord, but there is something else. Our intelligence assets on Earth have gone silent. We have received no reports in 3 days. They were probably discovered. The humans are paranoid. Send new agents. The officer hesitated. We tried, my lord. The ships we sent to human space have not returned. They simply vanished. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Drethkar's face, but he pushed it away. Humans were farmers and traders. They had no military to speak of. Their defense fleet was small and outdated. They were no threat to him. Increase patrols around our installations, he ordered, and double the garrison here on the fortress. I will not be caught unprepared. Yes, my lord. The officer bowed and retreated. Drethkar returned his attention to the celebration, but the joy had faded slightly. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. But what could humans possibly do? Far across the galaxy, the Black Fleet moved in perfect silence. Ships that had never appeared on any registry slipped through space like ghosts. They traveled through routes that no one else knew existed, using jump points that humanity had discovered and kept secret. For centuries, Admiral Cross stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Nemesis. It was a dreadnought-class vessel, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen from humanity. Its weapons could crack a planet's crust. Its shields could withstand a star's corona, and there were 40 more just like it. Admiral, her tactical officer reported. All fleets are in position. We are ready to commence the operation on your command. Helena looked at the star map. 12 systems, hundreds of targets, thousands of enemies who had participated in the massacre or who protected those who did. She thought about Sarah. Human fleet surrounded Drethkar's fortress moon like a ring of steel. 500 warships held position at precise intervals, their weapons charged and ready. Smaller vessels patrolled between them, scanning for any attempt to escape. Admiral Helen Cross stood on the bridge of the Nemesis and studied the tactical display. The fortress was impressive by Korvathi standards, bristling with weapons and protected by multiple shield generators. It had been built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at it, but the galaxy had never seen humanity's true weapons. Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Initial scans complete. The fortress has approximately 30,000 defenders, heavy weapons on all surfaces. Shield strength is at maximum. Civilian population none detected. This is a purely military installation. Helena nodded. That made things simpler, and Drethar confirmed. Present in the central command structure, our sensors have identified his personal life signs. Good. She looked at the fortress one more time. Then she opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Helen Cross of the Earth Defense Force to Warlord Drethkar. You are surrounded. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your installations have been captured. You have no allies and no hope of reinforcement. She paused, letting the words sink in. I am offering you one chance to surrender. Open your shields and stand down your weapons. You and your forces will be taken into custody and transported to Earth to face trial. For the massacre at New Eden, resistance will result in the destruction of your fortress and everyone in it. Silence on the channel, then a laugh deep and harsh. Human, Drethkar's voice crackled through the speakers. You think you have won. You think this display of force impresses me. I'm a warrior of the Iron Claw. I have crushed species more powerful than yours. I do not surrender. Then your people will die. Let them die. They will die with honor, fighting to the last. That is more than can be said. For your weakling farmers on New Eden, do you know what I enjoyed most about killing them? The look in their eyes when they realized no one was coming to save them, the way they begged for mercy. Helena's hands gripped the edge of the tactical console. Around her, the bridge crew tensed. Some of them had family on New Eden. Drethar continued, his voice dripping with contempt. Go ahead, human, destroy my fortress, kill my warriors, it changes nothing. I showed the galaxy what humans truly are. Prey victims, weaklings who cannot even protect their own females and young. You are wrong about us, Helena said quietly. But you will learn. She cut the channel and turned to her weapons officer. Target their shield generators. Precision strikes only. I want those shields down in 15 minutes. Yes. Admiral, the Nemesis opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across space and struck the fortress with perfect accuracy. Each shot hit exactly where it was aimed, burning through armor and destroying the generators. Beneath, other ships in the fleet joined the bombardment. They did not fire wildly or waste ammunition. Every weapon found its target. Every shot served a purpose. Inside the fortress, Drethgar watched the shield indicators flicker and die one by one. His tactical officers were shouting damage reports, but he barely heard them. He was watching the precision of the human attack with growing unease. This was not the clumsy assault of farmers and traders. This was the work of warriors who had spent generations preparing for war. Return fire, he commanded all batteries. The fortress weapons blazed to life, filling space with plasma bolts and missile salvos. Some found their targets, striking human ships and leaving scorch marks on their howls, but the human shields held. Their armor absorbed what the shields did not. Ship after ship shrugged off hits that would have crippled Korvathi vessels. Warlord, his tactical officer shouted, their ships are not taking damage. Our weapons are not penetrating their defenses. Impossible. No species has technology this advanced. The evidence suggests otherwise, my lord. Drethgar stared at the display in disbelief. Everything he knew about humans was wrong. Everything the galaxy believed about them was wrong. They had lied for 200 years. They had lied about who they were and what they could do, and he had been fool enough to believe it. The last shield generator exploded in a shower of sparks. The fortress was now exposed. Admiral Cross watched the shields fall and felt no satisfaction. This was not a victory to celebrate. This was a duty to perform. Prepare boarding parties, she ordered. I want our best assault teams. Objective is to capture Drethgar alive. All other combatants are to be given the chance to surrender. Before engagement, her Marine commander stepped forward. Colonel Marcus Webb was a veteran of conflicts the public had never heard of. His unit had trained in secret for 30 years, preparing for missions exactly like this one. Admiral requesting permission to lead the assault personally. Granted, but Marcus, she met his eyes. I know what you're feeling. I know you want to make them pay, but we're better than that. We prove it today. Understood, Admiral. I'll bring him back breathing. The drop ships launch from a dozen carriers, protected by fighter escorts. Fortress weapons tried to shoot them down, but human electronic warfare systems had already compromised the targeting computers. The Corvi gunners were firing Blind, Colonel Webb sat in the lead. Dropship reviewing the assault plan on his tactical display, 200 Marines. Against 30,000 defenders, the odds seemed impossible, but those 30,000 defenders had never fought humans before. Not really. Listen up, he told his team over the comm. Our objective is the central command structure. That's where Drethkar is hiding. We go in fast, hit hard, and don't stop moving. Anyone who surrenders gets taken prisoner. Anyone who fights gets put down. No exceptions. What about non-combatants? A young Marine asked. There are no non-combatants in that fortress, but if someone drops their weapon and puts their hands up, you hold fire. We're not them. Understood? Yes, sir. The dropship shuddered as it entered the fortress's thin atmosphere. Through the viewport, Webb could see the surface rushing up to meet them. Corvathi soldiers were scrambling to defensive positions. 30 seconds to landing. Weapons free on my command. The dropship touched down with a thump in. The doors blasted open. Human Marines poured out, their powered armor gleaming in the harsh light. The first Corvathi defenders opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts splashed against human shields. The Marines responded with precision. Webb moved through the chaos like a surgeon, his targeting system identifying threats in his weapons, eliminating them. Years of training made every motion automatic, every shot counted. Dot around him, his team spread out in perfect formation. They moved through the fortress corridors in pairs, covering each other, advancing steadily toward the command structure. A group of Corvathi soldiers appeared ahead. Weapons raised. Webb's voice boomed through his external speakers, translated automatically into Corvathi. Drop your weapons and surrender. You will not be harmed. This is your only warning. One soldier threw down his rifle and raised his hands. 2 others followed. A fourth tried to fire. Webb's shot took him in the chest before the trigger was pulled. Secure the prisoners, he ordered. Send them to Collection Point Alpha. Everyone else, keep moving. The assault continued through the fortress, room by room, corridor by corridor. Human Marines pushed toward the center. Some Corvathi fought to the death. Others surrendered when they saw that the humans honored their promises. The word spread through the fortress like fire. The humans were offering mercy. The humans were not killing prisoners. The humans were nothing like what the warlord had claimed. More and more defenders laid down their weapons. Drethkar watched the internal sensors with growing rage. His warriors were surrendering. His fortress was falling, and the humans just kept coming. Cowards, he snarled. They are all cowards. His personal guard stood around him, 20 of the most loyal warriors in his service. They would not surrender. They would die before they let these humans take their lord. Seal the command center, Drethkar ordered. Prepare for final defense. Heavy doors slammed shut and automated weapons powered up. Whatever came through those doors would face everything he had left. Outside the command center, Colonel Webb assessed the situation. The final barrier behind it, the target breach. Team, move up. I want shaped charges on that door. The Marines worked quickly, placing explosives at key structural points. They had practiced this exact scenario thousands of times. Every movement was perfect. Charges set. Colonel, everyone clear. On my mark. Webb waited until his team was in position, then he triggered the detonation. The blast tore the door apart in a shower of metal fragments. Human Marines poured through the breach, firing at anything that moved, automated. Weapons exploded under concentrated fire. Corvi guards fell one by one. Webb led the charge, his armor absorbing multiple hits that would have killed an unprotected soldier. He returned fire with deadly accuracy, each shot finding its target. In seconds, the command center was secure. Drethar's personal guard lay dead or disabled around him. The warlord himself stood in the center of the room, a blade in each of his four hands. Come then, human, he growled. Face me yourself, prove you are more than machines and tricks. Webb, the transport ship carrying Drefgar, moved through space at maximum speed, escorted by 20 warships. Admiral Cross was taking no chances. The warlord was the most important prisoner humanity had ever taken, and he would reach Earth alive. Drethgar sat in a reinforced cell deep within the transport's hall. His forearms were bound with restraints designed for his species, and a medical team had treated his broken wrist. He had not spoken since his capture. Guards stood outside his cell, watching him through reinforced glass. They did not taunt him or threaten him, they simply watched. This bothered Drefgar more than he would admit. When he had taken prisoners in the past, he had made sure they knew exactly what awaited them: pain, humiliation, death. These humans just stood there with blank expressions and said nothing. A door opened and Admiral Cross walked into the holding area. She was smaller than Drethgar had expected. Older, her hair was silver and her face was lined with age. She looked like someone's grandmother, not the commander of a fleet that had just destroyed his empire. Leave us, she told the guards. They hesitated. That's an order. Guards departed, though Drefgar could see them take positions just outside the door. Cross walked to the glass, separating her from the prisoner, and stood there looking at him. You are Cross, Drefgar said finally, the one who gave the orders. Admiral Helen Cross. And you are Drefgar of the Ironclaw, the one who killed 12,000 of my people. I did what warriors do. I conquered. I demonstrated strength. You slaughtered farmers and children. There's no honor in that. Drethgar laughed, but there was no humor in it. Honor is something the weak talk about to make themselves feel better about their weakness. The strong take what they want. That is the only truth. Cross reached into her pocket and pulled out a small tablet. She pressed a button and a holographic image appeared in the air between them. It was a photograph of a young girl, black hair, bright smile, missing front teeth. Her name was Lily Park. Cross said she was 6 years old. She wanted to be a doctor. When she grew up, her favorite color was purple, and she had a stuffed animal named Mr. Whiskers that she took everywhere. She pressed another button. Another image appeared. Thomas Chen, 14 years old. He was learning to play guitar. His music teacher said he had real talent. He was saving money to buy his own instrument. Another image. Rebecca Santos, 32. She was pregnant with twins. She and her husband had been trying for 3 years. Image after image appeared. Faces of the dead, names of the lost, stories that would never be finished. I could show you all 12,000. Cross said quietly. I have files on every single one of them, but I don't think you care about their names or their dreams. I think you see them as prey, as things. They were weak, Drethgar said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. They were Farmers, they built a community on a world that was nothing but bare rock and empty fields. They made it bloom. They created something beautiful out of nothing. Cross's eyes were hard as stone. You destroyed it because you could, because you thought there would be no consequences, because you thought we were prey. She leaned closer to the glass. You were wrong. Drethkar met her gaze. So kill me, take your revenge. It is what any species would do. No, Cross shook her head. Killing you would be easy, it would be satisfying, and it would make us exactly what you think we are: primitive, violent, no better than you. She put the tablet away. You are going to stand trial, Drefar, in an open court before the entire galaxy. You are going to hear the testimony of survivors. You are going to see the evidence of what you did, and then a jury of humans and aliens will decide your fate. What kind of trial gives justice to the conquered? The kind we invented, the kind we built into our laws thousands of years ago, when our ancestors realized that revenge only creates more violence, that punishment must be proportional and fair, that even monsters deserve the chance to speak before they are judged. Drethkar stared at her. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species like this. They had the power to destroy him, and they were choosing not to use it. You confuse me, human. Good. Cross turned to leave. Maybe confusion is the first step toward understanding. She paused at the door. Those people you killed, they would have welcomed you as a friend if you had come to trade. Instead of conquer, they would have shared their food and their homes. That's who they were. That's who we are. She looked back at him one last time. You could have had an ally. Instead, you have an enemy that will never forget what you did. I hope the memory keeps you company for the rest of your life. The door closed behind her, and Drethkar was alone with the images still floating in the air, faces of the dead looking at him with eyes that would never see again. He told himself he felt nothing. He was lying. On Earth, the preparations for the trial were underway. The world court had convened an emergency session to establish procedures. Legal experts from every human nation worked together to create a process that would be beyond reproach. The Galactic Council had requested observer status, and humanity had granted it. Representatives from 50 species would watch the proceedings. They wanted to see how humans handled justice. Sarah Chin sat in a conference room in the prosecutor's office, giving her testimony to a team of lawyers. Maya sat beside her, holding her hand, and then the transport came. Sarah said, "We flew to Earth. That was 3 weeks ago." The lead prosecutor, a woman named Victoria Akanjo, nodded sympathetically. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I know this is difficult. What will happen to him, too?" "The warlord, he will be tried for crimes against humanity. If found guilty, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, not executed." Victoria shook her head. "We abolished the death penalty for all crimes to 100 years ago, even for someone like him." Sarah considered this. Part of her wanted Drethkar dead. Part of her wanted him to suffer the way her neighbors had suffered. But another part of her, the part that had taught Maya that violence was wrong, understood the principle. Will he understand? She asked. Will he know why we're not killing him? I hope so, Victoria said. That's partly the point, to show him and everyone watching that we're better than what he did to us. Maya looked up at her mother. Mama, will the bad man hurt anyone else? No, sweetie. He's locked up now, he can't hurt anyone. Good. Maya returned to the drawing she was making. It showed a house, a garden, and two figures holding hands. I'm drawing our new home, the one we're going to build. Sarah felt tears in her eyes after everything her daughter was still thinking about the future, still hoping that was the human way. Fall down, get up, keep going. The trial began on a clear spring morning in Geneva. The courtroom was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Cameras broadcast the proceedings to every inhabited world. Drefar was brought in wearing restraints designed for his species. He moved with as much dignity as he could manage, refusing to show weakness. The prosecutor, Victoria Kanjo, stood before the court and addressed not just the human judges, but the entire galaxy watching beyond. What happened on New Eden was not a battle. It was not a conquest, it was murder. Deliberate, calculated, cold-blooded murder of civilians who posed no threat and offered no resistance. She gestured to a screen where footage from the massacre began to play. In the gallery, alien observers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. The defendant chose to kill these people because he believed there would be no consequences. He believed humans were weak. He believed we would accept our loss and do nothing. She turned to look directly at Drefgar. He was wrong about our weakness, but he was not wrong to expect that we might respond with blind rage, that we might simply destroy him and his people in retaliation. That is what most species would do. That is what history says the victors always do to the defeated. Victoria paused, letting the silence build. But we are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. There's a difference, and that difference defines who we are as a species. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Survivors testified about what they had witnessed. Forensic experts presented evidence. Military analysts explained the planning and execution of the assault throughout it. All Drethgar listened in silence. His defense, provided by human lawyers who had volunteered to ensure a fair process, argued that his actions were consistent with Corvathi military tradition, that humans should have known the risks of appearing weak, that the treaty was invalid because humans had misrepresented their capabilities. The jury deliberated for days. When they returned, the courtroom fell silent. Every camera in the galaxy focused on the jury foreman as she stood to deliver the verdict on the charge of crimes against humanity. We find the defendant guilty. Drekar showed no reaction. On the charge of directing the murder of non-combatants, we find the defendant guilty. Still nothing. On the charge of conspiracy to commit genocide, we find the defendant guilty. The foreman looked at the warlord with something that might have been pity. The defendant is sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He will serve his sentence in a facility designed to humanely contain individuals of his species. He will receive adequate food, medical care, and opportunities for education and reflection. Drethgar finally spoke. You should kill me. Foreman shook her head. We don't do that here. Guards moved to take him away. As a passive Galactic Council chamber was the largest enclosed space in the galaxy, built on a neutral station orbiting a dead star. It could hold representatives from thousands of species. Today it was full. Admiral Helen Cross walked down the central aisle, her footsteps echoing in the vast silence. She wore her dress uniform, medals gleaming on her chest. Behind her, a small delegation of human diplomats followed, every eye in the chamber was fixed on her. She reached the speaking platform and turned to face the assembly. Thousands of alien faces looked back at her. Some were hostile, some were curious, some were afraid. She understood all of those reactions. Distinguished representatives, she began, I come before you today not to threaten, not to demand, and not to apologize. I come to explain. She paused, gathering her thoughts. 6 months ago, a HFY warlord attacked a human farming colony and killed 12,000 of our people, women, children, farmers who had never raised a weapon in anger. He did this because he believed we were weak. He believed there would be no consequences. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. In response, humanity revealed capabilities we had hidden for centuries, a fleet that no one knew existed, technology that surpasses anything in known space, military power that rivals the combined forces of the 5 most powerful species in this council. The murmurs grew louder. I understand your concern. You are wondering why we hid this. You are wondering what else we might be hiding. You are wondering if humanity is a threat to your worlds and your people. She let the question hang in the air. I will tell you why we hid our strength, and I will tell you what kind of species we truly are. She touched a control and a holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed Earth as it had been 500 years ago, when my ancestors first developed faster than light travel. They emerged into a galaxy full of established powers, species that had been starving for millennia, empires that had conquered hundreds of worlds, military forces that could have destroyed Earth in an afternoon. The display shifted to show early human colonies. We were new, we were small, and we had a choice to make. We could try to compete with the established powers, building the biggest fleet, the strongest weapons, the most aggressive military. That path would have led to war, a war we might win, but at a cost that would define us for all time. Another shift, ships being constructed in hidden bases. Or we could choose a different path. We could hide our true capabilities and present ourselves as traders, farmers, explorers. We could build relationships based on cooperation rather than intimidation. We could become valuable partners rather than feared rivals. She looked around the chamber. We chose the second path. For 200 years, we have traded with you, worked alongside you, shared our knowledge and learned from yours. We have been good neighbors, not because we were too weak to be anything else, but because we believed that peace was better than war. The display showed the massacre at New Eden. Gasps and whispers filled the chamber. Drethkar did not understand this. He saw our peaceful nature and mistook it for weakness. He attacked our most vulnerable citizens because he thought there would be no response. He was wrong. The display showed the human response, the black fleet emerging from hidden bases, the precise strikes on military targets, capture of Drethkar's sort. We could have done more. We could have burned every world that Drethkar ever touched. We could have exterminated his entire clan, every male, female, and child. We had the power, we had the provocation. She let that sink in. We chose not to. We targeted only military installations. We spared civilians. We accepted surrenders. And when we captured the one responsible, we did not execute him. We put him on trial. we gave him lawyers and let him speak in his own defense. We followed our own laws, even when those laws protected our worst enemy. She stepped closer to the edge of the platform. That is who we are, not the peaceful farmers you thought we were, not the bloodthirsty monsters some of you fear. We are a species that chooses its battles carefully, a species that values life, even the lives of our enemy, a species that believes justice is more important than revenge. The Corvathy High Counselor rose from his seat, his voice carried across the chamber. Admiral Cross, the Corvathy Dominion did not authorize Drekkar's actions. We have distanced ourselves from his crimes. What assurances do we have that humanity will not seek further retribution against our people? Helena turned to face him directly. High Counselor, your question contains its own answer. You did not authorize the attack. Your people did not participate in the massacre, therefore you have nothing to fear from humanity, but our species shares blood with the killer, and my species shares blood with tyrants and murderers throughout our history. We do not punish children for the sins of their ancestors. We do not blame nations for the actions of individuals. That is not justice, that is collective punishment, and we reject it. The Velry ambassador spoke next. Admiral, you have revealed that humanity possesses military power far beyond what we believed. How can we trust that you will not use this power against us? Helena nodded as if she had expected this question. Ambassador, you cannot trust based on promises. Promises mean nothing. You can only trust based on actions. She gestured to the display, which now showed images from the fortress assault. During our operation, we captured over 8,000 Corvathy soldiers. Every single one of them is alive. They have been provided with food, medical care, and comfortable quarters. They will be returned to their families once diplomatic arrangements are complete. New images appeared. Human Marines giving water to wounded enemies. Prisoners being treated by human doctors. Captured officers being addressed with respect. We also evacuated civilian shipping from combat zones before attacks began. We repaired damage to civilian infrastructure after fighting ended. We provided humanitarian aid to populations that had been exploited by Drekkar's regime. She looked around the chamber. This is what humanity does with power, not conquest, not domination. We use power to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. We use power to help those who need help. We use power in service of principles, not profit. The chamber was silent. I understand that you may still be afraid. Fear is reasonable when you discover that someone you thought you knew has been hiding something important, but I ask you to judge us by our actions, not by your fears. She took a deep breath. Humanity wants to be your partner. We want to trade, to explore, to learn. Together, we want to build something greater than any of us could build alone. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, and there is room for all of us. She stepped back from the edge of the platform. But we will not allow our people to be murdered without consequence. We will not stand idle while innocents are slaughtered, and we will not pretend to be weak simply to make others comfortable. Her voice hardened slightly. From this day forward, the galaxy knows who we really are, not farmers pretending to be warriors, not warriors pretending to be farmers. We are humans. We choose peace when peace is possible. We accept war when war is necessary, and we never ever forget. Those who harm our people, she let the silence stretch for a long moment. That is all I have to say. The council may deliberate as it sees fit. Humanity will await your response. She turned and walked back down the aisle. The human delegation followed. Behind them, the chamber erupted into chaos as representatives shouted, argued, and debated. Outside the chamber, Admiral Cross stopped and leaned against a wall. Victoria Kanjo approached her. That was quite a speech. I meant every word. I know you did. That's what made it effective. Helena looked at the diplomat. What do you think will happen? Some species will be afraid. Some will be angry. Some will pretend that nothing has changed. Victoria smiled slightly. But many will want to be our friends. Not because we're weak, but because we're strong and still choose to be kind. And the Corvi, the Dominion government, is terrified. They're already distancing themselves from their military hardliners. They'll probably want to negotiate new treaties, better ones that show they value our partnership. Helena nodded slowly. Good. That was the point. She straightened and began walking toward the transport that would take her back to Earth. Admiral Victoria called after her. What happens now? Helena paused and looked back over her shoulder. Now we go home. We rebuild New Eden. We mourn our dead and raise our children. We go back to being farmers and traders and explorers. And the Black Fleet goes back into hiding where it belongs. She smiled grimly. Until the next time someone decides to test us. 1 year later, Sarah Chen stood on the porch of her new house and watched Mir run through the fields. The wheat was growing tall, swaying in the breeze like golden waves. New Eden had been rebuilt, not exactly as it was before, but something similar, something hopeful. Colonists had returned from Earth, joined by new settlers who wanted to be part of something meaningful. The population had reached 5,000 and was growing every month, but there was something else, something unexpected. Walking through the fields alongside the human farmers were Korvathi workers, young Korvathi who had volunteered to help rebuild what their kinsmen had destroyed. They worked side